Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, going to go over an article titled, Man Waits 2 Years to Get Back an Ex-Girlfriend with Perfectly Planned Wedding Prank. And guys, this article is about a young guy, who's an oil rig worker. And so he's gone, for long periods of time doing the work on the rig. And lo and behold, he meets this smoking hot, beautiful woman. And he totally falls for her because obviously she's hot and all that. And even though his co-workers and friends definitely saw some red flags, this is a young guy, but his friends and co-workers, they had more life experience and they could see some red flags about her. The young guy didn't pay attention to that. And lo and behold, turns out that she starts taking advantage of him big time and as a gold digger, as well as cheating on him. And this whole thing goes into the fact about what happens, what he does and everything, and then what she does in retaliation to him, and all this shit leading up to this incredible prank to get even with her at her wedding. And it's very entertaining. And there's some points, guys, where a few parts I gotta question how much of this actually happened, if things were exaggerated a bit, but nevertheless, it's pretty entertaining. And some very valuable lessons are learned along the way for this guy, which I'm going to point out to you guys so you don't make the same mistake. And it's long, so I'm going to get right into it. And by the way, big shout out to Lewis for sending this over to me. And starts off saying, infidelity has become commonplace in the modern age, but is particularly common for couples who regularly spend long periods apart. The long distance doesn't accuse cheating, though, and it doesn't make it any better. Getting hurt in that manner is so painful, it can traumatize you and affect all future relationships. Yet cheaters often show absolutely no remorse for their actions. Some people only think about themselves, hurting others in the process. Revenge is in order for victims of these immortal lovers, but vengeance can easily spiral out of control. One oil rig worker's revenge served justice to his former lover and ensured he got the last laugh at her wedding of all places. Vengeance can be dangerous. As things quickly get out of hand, keep this in mind. Dino, the oil rig worker, took revenge on his former lover in a perfectly planned manner, finding justice for himself at last after refusing to remain a victim. It all started when he began to suspect his girlfriend was cheating while he was working as an oil rig worker far from home. And it ended when he forced her to expose her true rotten nature to those closest to her. It's a good revenge story, guys. When you look at the base salary of an oil rig worker, it doesn't seem much to write home about. However, because most expenses are paid for, these workers end up banking most of what they earn. It's readily perceived as a lucrative occupation. Yet one of the biggest downside is the time spent away from home. Not everyone can do it, and many who do work on the rigs end up blowing their money instead of being responsible financial planners. But not Dino. Those who go out to sea to work on an oil rig aren't your average run-of-the-mill laborers. While this is a highly skilled work, it happens to also be a job you don't need an education in. That doesn't mean oil riggers aren't smart, as Dino proves. What is more important than education is experience, as oil companies won't generally hire someone to work on an oil rig if they don't have a good mind for detail, and Dino certainly did. As fellow oil riggers described him, Dino was a really nice, quiet guy, and unlike some of the hard-partying guys in the crew, he didn't blow his money as fast as it came. Dino was smart, making good money, and saving it too. That's great. Guys, if you're young, save your money, okay? Don't piss it away on bullshit, okay? Let that money grow, invest it, or whatever. Money is freedom. And also, by the way, guys, in life, shit happens. So you want to have money put away, okay? Not just an emergency, but also investments. The more you have, the more freedom you got. Just keep that in mind. He didn't show off his success like a spendthrift and invested instead in a condominium he paid for in full. The only thing missing was a woman to enjoy his success with. Unfortunately, the woman he picked up ended up being a backstabber. Well, that's putting it mildly, what you're about to see, guys. While the other oil rig workers seem to go through a different girlfriend every furlough they had, Dino was waiting for someone special. His patience is one of his strongest traits, for when he sees a perfect opportunity present itself, he is decisive. For this reason, it was no problem for him to score an amazingly beautiful woman, but also was the reason all of his friends' jaws dropped to the floor when they saw this beautiful woman on Shy Dino's arm. Dino's friends referred to this woman by some names we don't want to repeat. But elsewhere, she was called Andrea, so we'll stick to that. According to Dino's friends, she was an extremely beautiful woman, apparently to compensate for her awful personality. A lot of times that happens. You can be smoking hot, beautiful women, but they're rotten to the core inside. Probably because from childhood they had their asses kissed by everyone because obviously how beautiful we were. And you're going to see it through. I go through this article, guys. The hot crazy scale is definitely going to come into play here. Centerfold hot was how they described her. While Dino was a bit ordinary looking and kind of shy, maybe physically she was out of his league, but personality-wise, it was he who was the steal in reality. Most of Dino's friends were proud of him for landing such a hot woman, but one of them was slightly more suspicious. According to him, she raised the hair on the back of my neck. Once he got to know her a bit better, he said he discovered she was one of the most self-centered, attention-gathering people I'd ever met. Hindsight is 20/20. And he didn't have the ability to foresee what would happen. Yet the warning signs were most certainly there. She was smart, all right, Dino's friend said. You could tell that in 5 minutes of conversing with her, but she was devastatingly gorgeous, knew it, and was very skillful at manipulating the people around her. In nature, women are just naturally manipulative. That's just how it is. Some of you guys may not like what I'm saying here, especially my female viewers, but it's a fucking fact. And generally, the more beautiful they are, the better they are at it. Every instinct in me screamed predator. However, he didn't have anything solid to show Dino to warn him. Soon enough, Andrea moved into Dino's condo. Outwardly, at least, things were going absolutely fantastic. But then Dino started getting suspicious while he was away at work. Moving in is a big step that can make or break a relationship, as it reveals issues you didn't foresee in your partner. Hopefully these difficulties can be overcome and even embraced as part of the process of getting to better know your significant other, as is often trivial issues that people stubbornly can't change or get over without a little positivity and encouragement. Dino's case was far more harmful, and he entrusted Andrea to hold the fort while he was away. Guys, I've told you before in other videos, don't get married and don't move in with your girlfriend. It's a recipe for disaster on so many levels. Not every case is going to be like what I'm about to read, but there are a lot of bad situations that can arise from it. And the way they treat you is going to instantly change the second you're in the apartment with them, especially if you move in her place. According to his friend, things seemed a bit off when Dino looked into his bank account. He had left Andrea a card so she would be able to take care of herself while he was out of town, and something odd showed up in his bank statement. And that's another thing, guys. Don't give women your credit card or your money or access to that or anything. You're out of your goddamn mind, okay? And this guy, she was just a girlfriend. And he let her move into his place and have free reign to do whatever she wanted, and a card to spend money. Big mistake. But this guy, he learns a hard lesson, but he learns. And so I do these videos so you guys don't make the same mistakes. Because a lot of guys get intoxicated by a woman's beauty, and they just let them do whatever the hell they want, and it blows up in their face. Goes on, he was seeing stuff on his bank statements. Dino's buddies recalled like a $300 grocery purchase, and then another $200 grocery purchase a couple days later. Either she was eating $500 worth of groceries a week, or she was pumping cashbacks from the grocery store into her purse. It was becoming increasingly clear to Dino that his girlfriend was a gold digger. While he was away bringing valuable materials that fuel our machines up from under the plant's surface, Andrea was back at his house spending his money. Dino isn't a greedy guy, but maybe it's this quality that makes him susceptible to moochers like Andrea. He learned from his mistakes, and it seems highly unlikely he will be caught in a similar position. At the time, though, Dino was completely shocked that she was acting so strangely. I'm not. The bizarreness of Andrea's behavior made Dino start to suspect that she might not be remaining faithful. After all, she had ample opportunity to maintain an affair when he was away, not to mention having access to his money. So Andrea was very possibly betraying him twice over. Dino was smart, though, and made a plan. He arranged for his relief to come out a few days early and flew back home. His friend said Dino's strong suspicions would be confirmed, but things only went downhill from there. As it turned out, Dino's instincts were right on the money. He had a pretty decent idea of what he'd be coming home to. So he asked the condominium association security guard to come up with him to be a witness. Andrea didn't expect him home for a couple more days, so when Dino entered with his witness out of the blue, it caught her completely by surprise. For him, it confirmed the worst suspicions he had of the woman he once thought was the one. No such thing, guys. Despite the prospect of finding the right woman crumbling before his eyes, Dino kept his cool. His friend said that he caught Andrea and her lover in his condo. Dino didn't go off and didn't lose his temper, to his credit. Just told the guy to get out. Then he told Andrea to get out too. He handed her the key to a hotel room, $50 for cab fare, and told her to leave. But Andrea flew off the handle. That's some nerve. She's there in his place, spending all his money, hooking up with other dudes. The guy gets there early, tells her to get out, and she decides she flew off the handle. But this guy, just to show you how nice he was, he even gave her $50 for the cab ride. Get the hell out. I'm sure she could find a way to make more money, and I'm sure she had plenty of other suckers she could call or text that would come rescue her and take care of her. In all fairness, we can understand why Andrea got upset. No, we can't. What a load of bullshit. Even though she had just been caught cheating on her boyfriend, which clearly puts her in the wrong, Andrea was living with Dino and had all her things there. Too bad. That being said, she could have definitely tried to show a bit less entitlement and a bit more humility. After all, it was Dino who had purchased the house. They weren't married, thankfully for Dino. So he wouldn't have to split the assets when they separated. As Dina's friend recalled, Andrea was screaming, crying, apologizing, and proclaiming her love for him in one breath, and cursing him with the next. This was met with level-headedness from Dino. Call the police, Dino told the security guard. The cops arrived at about the same time as the locksmith. Dino's friend explained Andrea wasn't on the lease, so once the police verified who owned the home, they removed her. That should have been the end of it, but Andrea was vindictive. Even though she was in the wrong, she has to be vindictive. Wait till you see this. Dino had taken a lot out of the comforts she had become used to. He canceled the card he gave her. Andrea had to face the music. Dino wasn't going to provide for her any longer. He took all of Andrea's things and had them placed in a storage unit. Meanwhile, he wasn't answering or responding to any of her constant phone calls. Eventually, she came back to his building, but he was prepared. If she thought she would be let right in, she was sorely mistaken. He didn't tell her about what he did with her things, and she only found out when she showed up at his property. The doorman was waiting for her. He handed her the key to the storage unit and directions on how to get there. Then he instructed her that she was no longer welcome at the property. Beautiful. But Andrea wasn't just going to sit around and be stubbed in that manner. She was going to hit Dino back where it hurts. Some nerve, huh? But again, women like this have spent their whole lives having their asses kissed, not just by guys, but everyone, because, oh, you're so beautiful, and some bullshit like that. And they get these massive egos and entitlement and all that. I've known women like this. They are rotten to the core. Dino was able to make sure that she wouldn't be admitted back into his condo, so she wouldn't be able to get close to anything that he really cared about. In the meantime, he knew everything he owned would be safe and sound whether he was at home or on the rig working, or so he thought. His condo isn't his only prized possession, and Dino soon discovered that not all the things he owned were stored away, out safe and sound, out of Andrea's reach. Besides the condo he owns, Dino's pride and joy is his white Chevy Monte Carlo. Several weeks after the breakup, he returned home from another stint at the oil rig. Instead of finding his car in tip-top condition, it had been damaged. 4 flat tires, a smashed windshield, and a can of red paint had been poured all over it. Crazy. Security in his garage wasn't too tight, so there was no proof, but it didn't take Sherlock Holmes to figure out this one. Mess with a man's auto, and you best beware. Andrea had just done something that Dino would never be able to forgive. Another more brash man would hit her back where it hurts immediately, and Dino had ample opportunity, but he was patient. He knew that the perfect time to strike wasn't now. Dino returned to his routine without missing a beat, but he hadn't forgiven or forgotten what Andrea had done to him. Soon he would find an opening, somewhere to strike back at his ex-girlfriend and hard. And you're going to see the way he messes with her is pretty classic. Dino would never forget what she did, so when he learned that she was getting married, obviously this is later on in the future, he started plotting. He learned of the engagement through a friend of his, Nancy. His sister, Kathy, happens to be very good friends with Andrea, but Nancy knew the real Andrea and passed the information on to Dino. How can, after all that, his sister be friends with this broad? Maybe she was friends with her beforehand, but after all that, that's crazy. Little things like this make me question a few things with this story, but I'll play devil's advocate and say it's accurate, a good, but nevertheless entertaining story here. She'd become co-conspirator along with him, and together they made sure that what was supposed to be the best day of Andrea's life was the worst day. Thankfully, Nancy knew exactly what type of person Andrea was. When she received the invitation to the wedding, the first thing she thought about how Andrea had betrayed her good friend, Dino. She took advantage of the fact that he had property and made good money, mooching off of him as she slept around with other men. In return for everything that Andrea did, though, Dino started off just with an anonymous letter addressed to Andrea. And it's quoted as saying, about a month before the wedding, Dino sends an anonymous letter in the mail. In the envelope was a picture of a Monte Carlo, the car, a wedding dress, and a ketchup packet. There's a single sheet of paper with 3 words, red on white. If you thought Dino was just a turn the other cheek, you were sorely mistaken. He hadn't forgotten what she had done to his car, and neither had she. He was going to get his revenge, and with his cryptic message, she knew it. The note was enough to make Andrea worry about her pure white wedding dress. Nancy had given Dino a little piece of information that she had heard from her sister, the name of the store where Andrea was getting her dress. Dino went to the store and asked the guy if he wants to make an easy $100. All he had to do is call Andrea and tell her that they need her to come to the shop and choose the red lace trim for her gown. Andrea showed up 20 minutes later, freaking out and demanding to know what this was all about. Dino's friend continued, the guy said he got a call from her fiancé and ordered the red lace for the dress. Andrea knew that it wasn't her fiancé, and she had a pretty good idea who was behind the sabotage. She was freaking out with good reason. His staining her white dress red wasn't a matter of if to her, but rather a matter of when. She was spooked with the wedding approaching and the bride-to-be freaking out. Dino waited until a couple weeks were left until the big day. Nancy had a slip-up and told her sister that a friend of Dino's worked at the company hired to cater the food for Andrea's wedding. Andrea flipped out, immediately deleted the pasta dishes, and had tomatoes removed from the salads in fear that Dino's non-existent buddy might dump a plate on her. Man, he is really messing with her head, but after everything she's done to him, she had it coming. This wasn't where it would end, though. Dino had about 30 different red lipsticks sent to her house from a variety of Amazon sellers, all paid from prepaid credit cards. She wasn't able to trace them back to him, but she knew. As if this psychological torment wasn't enough, Dino then had a red Sharpie placed under her windshield wipers for her to find one fine morning. By the time of the wedding day, she was a complete wreck, expecting to be sprayed by red paint at every turn. Andrea had serious reasons for fearing Dino's revenge. Even though she hadn't seen him in 2 years, she couldn't forget what happened between them. Andrea had a really good deal with Dino until she compromised it by thinking he wouldn't catch on to her cheating. As if that wasn't enough, she knew how much Dino loved his vehicle and had damaged it regardless. She knew he was smart, so whatever he would do to her would be pretty bad. She could not have this on her wedding day. She needed to do something. She had her father call Dino at work to tell him into backing off. But when Dino explained what she had done to him and to his car, the father became really ticked off at Andrea. Instead, there seems to be some sort of man code that says you don't mess with another man's automobile. Sounds like Pulp Fiction. You just don't do it. And it cost Andrea the support of her father ahead of the wedding. But did Dino ever actually plan on doing anything on the day of the wedding? In reality, it was in Dino's interest for the wedding to be really enjoyable for all Andrea's guests, just not her. At the wedding reception, Andrea was a basket case. Bridezilla. She demanded that all the red flowers be removed from the centerpieces and all the tables. What the hell is somebody going to do with a red flower? She refused to get within 10 feet of anyone holding a red drink. She spent more time and attention looking for the ambush she was certain was coming, and Dino didn't do a damn thing. Indeed, he had to make sure guests like Nancy could witness everything. He turned her into a bridezilla, and Nancy, who was invited, kept him updated with a running commentary as the night progressed. It was legendary. Before all those closest to her, she exposed herself to be an erratic and paranoid person that was demanding everyone bend over backwards every time there was a slight possibility her dress would get stained red. In the end, the only thing stained was her reputation. If she had just kept her mouth shut and not gotten her father involved, he never would have learned what she had done to Dino. Before long, everyone learned firsthand just how self-centered and selfish she was after she behaved like a monster at her wedding. Dino didn't need to do much, just make some arrangements for her to be freaked out that something bad was going to happen. As for the rest, he could just let her do it herself. The end. And Dino lived happily ever after. Anyway, guys, I thought that was a pretty funny story in terms of revenge. He obviously didn't do anything physically to her or her property, but he just messed with her head. And that could be the best thing, in terms of revenge, because, he didn't do anything. Just put a marker under the windshield and sent her a bunch of stuff, and, a lot of pranks here and there, but that's a pretty good prank. Again, whether this is 100% accurate or not, I don't know, but it's pretty good and pretty entertaining, I must say. But the lesson of the story is, guys, aside from the entertainment factor, is, generally speaking, if any of you guys like watching Marvel movies and X-Men, I really enjoy all of them. There's a line from X-Men 2 when Magneto is being busted out of prison by Mystique. And he basically offs one of the security guards. And he looks at the security guard, referring to Mystique, and he says, "Never trust a beautiful woman, especially one who's interested in you." I always remember that line because it's dead on. Generally, the most beautiful women, they have dark souls. Okay, not all, but a hell of a lot. And usually the hot, crazy scale definitely comes into play. So guys, for those who are dating and pickup, have your radar finely tuned for the really smoking hot ones. You just never know. Because a lot of them are used to whole lives of getting what they want, having men put them on a pedestal, kiss their ass, and in many cases women as well. And you just never know. You got to be prepared. But like I said, don't move in with a woman. Don't do the long distance relationship thing. It's bound to not end well in your favor. Especially don't let her move into your place and have free reign to do whatever she wants. And lastly, don't give her your money. Don't give her your credit card or ways to access your money and spend it freely. That could blow up in your face. I don't care how good she is. Do not do it. You don't share accounts. None of that shit at all. All right? It's not going to end well. And as you can see, what happened to that guy. So anyhow, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.